What's up, guys? I'm LQ. This is the LQ Review. Thank you so much for joining me here at my YouTube channel. This is where I talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that I love to talk about. Movies, video games, comic books, TV shows. And right now, I'd like to give you guys my review of Wonder Woman 1984. So I got to watch it last night with my wife and daughter. And, I watched it on HBO Max. I did not watch it in a theater. And I really wanted to. But given the state of things, obviously, like a lot of you, I had to watch it at home on HBO Max. So what did I think of it? Well, I liked it. I did. I liked it. It was not... Let me just get this out of the way up front. It was not as good as the first Wonder Woman. But it was very different than the first Wonder Woman. So this movie is about Diana. Ever since World War I, ever since Steve Trevor died, she has been, working for a museum. What was it, an anthropologist or something like that? But she was working for a museum, and she has been keeping everybody at a distance. She's been keeping everybody at a distance, and it's like I was telling my wife, if you were immortal, essentially immortal, you would get to a point where you start keeping people at a distance, because essentially everybody that comes into your life, everybody that you love, you're going to lose them. So she really kind of closed herself off from the world. She did not want to have relationships, be it romantic or friendship. It just seemed like she was not interested in relationships. And so we find her in the 80s, after a beautiful opening sequence on Themyscira, with her as a little girl running some sort of Amazonian games, which was thrilling to watch, and she learned an important message about truth and fairness and all that. But then we pick her up in 1984, where, like I said, she's kind of just been living a very remote life, very distant from everybody. Now she's living in the city, she's living a very metropolitan life, but personally it's very remote. And we kind of find her making friends with a colleague of hers named Barbara Minerva. Before we pick up that relationship, though, I want to just kind of touch on why Wonder Woman is so important. There is an opening sequence that takes place at the mall, at a mall. Now remember, this is the 80s. Shopping at the mall was huge back then. And there was this sequence where, some guys were there to commit some sort of a heist, and Wonder Woman shows up and she stops them. They're armed. She shows up and she stops them, and she's jumping around. She's using her lasso to kind of swing from place to place in the mall to make sure that she subdues everybody. There's a couple little girls that are in the mall that she's able to rescue, and kind of, she's able to kind of wink at them, and they wink back, and they're just ecstatic with what they see with her, a woman taking down these bad guys. And I gotta tell you, I was watching it with my wife and daughter. And at this point, this action sequence in the film, my daughter, who's 7, she stands up and she's watching it in awe. And finally she says, "Wonder Woman's bringing down the house." And we just laughed so hard, but it also struck me just how important of a character Wonder Woman is. I've said this before concerning Wonder Woman, that she is one of the most important characters in comic books, especially in live action film and live action television, because it gives those girls something to look up to. It gives the girls something inspirational to look up to, something to aspire to be. And I'm not talking about the superpowers. I'm talking about the compassion, the empathy, the love, something for them to, and the strength, something for them to aspire to be. As cool of a character as Black Widow is, I don't want my daughter to aspire to be her. But Wonder Woman is somebody that my daughter can aspire to be. And I can be like, yeah, that'd be wonderful. I would love for you to have the same empathy, the same compassion, the same love, and the same strength as Wonder Woman. That's great. Another thing that Wonder Woman does, and I'm kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but it's not a spoiler to say that Steve Trevor comes back in this movie. I'm not going to say how he comes back, but he comes back, and what I love about Wonder Woman that's also very important is that my daughter gets to see a woman working as an equal to a man. The movie, the first one or the second one, neither Wonder Woman movie dumbed down the male characters to prop up the female characters. They didn't have to. Because Wonder Woman was able to stand on her own with any man in the movie. So they didn't have to dumb down Steve Trevor. Steve Trevor was able to work alongside Wonder Woman as an equal. He may not have been her equal in every way, especially physically, but he was able to work alongside her as an equal to solve kind of the mystery of this movie and take out the bad guys in this movie. And that's another thing that I love to see. I love to see a movie, especially with my daughter, where she's able to see a woman working alongside men. Not in a movie where they are intentionally dumbing the men down to make the girl look good. Ghostbusters 2016. Alright? That is phenomenal to me. That is what feminism is not dumbing down the men, but by the women truly standing toe-to-toe with strong men to accomplish great things. So, that's all good and fine. But that's why Wonder Woman is so important. It's so important to me, and why I think she's so important overall is because of what she means to kids, what she means to little girls. And they definitely played on that in the first scene. So Wonder Woman, like I said, Steve Trevor comes back, and that becomes a bit of a reversal, where in the first movie, she was the fish out of water, and he was showing her this very bleak, very dour, very depressing world that mankind had built. The comedic elements in the movie from the first one came from the way that she reacted to the world in which she was presented. In Wonder Woman 2, Steve is now the fish out of water, and a lot of the comedic elements of this movie come from him reacting to the world in which he's being presented. However, his reaction to this world is so wonderful, and it's probably my biggest takeaway from this movie, is all that Steve saw in the world was good. All he saw in the world was good. He saw a world that was filled with possibility, a world that was filled with beauty. He saw a world that was filled with good. And that is my biggest takeaway, because I think that if we all look closer at the world in which we live, we're going to find that there's a lot more good than bad. And we're going to find there's a lot more good people than bad people. And I absolutely adore that. And for me, that was by far the biggest takeaway of the movie. But a lot of the comedic elements did come from that aspect. However, there was a lot less comedic elements than I thought there was going to be. I thought that there was going to be a lot more funny components of this movie, especially with the fish out of water storyline, than there was going to be. Honestly, it didn't have to be set in the 80s. This was a movie that could have been set after Batman vs. Superman. Or it could have been done after Justice League. There's nothing that happened in this movie that really required it to be set in the 80s. All right, let's talk about the villains. Maxwell Lord was great. Pedro Pascal is having a wonderful year between The Mandalorian and now Wonder Woman 1984. He's showing a lot of range. He's showing a lot of ability as an actor, and he's showing a lot of star power. Real honest to God star power. And I think we're going to start to see his popularity grow. His face was in front of the screen in this movie, right? In The Mandalorian, it's not so much. So this is going to definitely contribute to him becoming a bigger star. Maxwell Lord was a wonderful villain in this movie, and he wasn't a mustache-twirling villain who wanted to see mankind obliterated. He was a villain that there was a certain degree of empathy you had for him. And a little bit like Thanos, where you knew that what he was doing was wrong, but you understood why he was doing it. All right? What he was doing was not okay. It was bad. It was real bad. But you got it. You got it. So Maxwell Lord was definitely that type of villain. Cheetah, on the other hand, I didn't really feel that one. I thought Kristen Wiig did a good job of portraying the awkward Barbara Minerva at the beginning of the movie, but that's what Kristen Wiig does, is she plays awkward person. That's her character in every movie, is awkward person. And then she started to transform, and I won't say exactly how that transformation took place, but she did start to transform. And as the movie went on, and as the movie progressed, and as she became more, as her character changed, her outwardly appearance continued to change, and it was a positive, and then it turned into a negative, and eventually she finds herself as the cheetah that we know from the comics. Looking like a cat. She got the fur, she got the tail, she looks like a cat. And I just didn't care. I feel like Maxwell Lord should have been the only villain in this movie, but then they were like, the whole thought process probably came up that, okay, who's gonna be the physical antagonist, and when are we gonna have Cheetah? Cheetah's one of Wonder Woman's main bad guys. We gotta have Cheetah. So, well, I don't think she was shoehorned in. I feel like Cheetah was probably always planned since the beginning. I feel like she wasn't a necessary villain, because the Maxwell Lord, he was the one that drove the story. Cheetah kind of acted like a mirror to Wonder Woman, like a twisted version of what Wonder Woman could have become. The fight was okay. It was short. I don't know. I don't want to get too spoilery, but the fight was short, but it was okay. There wasn't a whole lot of moments where Cheetah wasn't moving quickly. And I think that was intentional, because I don't think that they wanted you to have a lot of really good looks at her, because the CGI just, it's hard to make a cat person not look silly. It's hard to make a cat person not look silly. And to be honest, Cheetah looked kind of silly. So it's a character that works fine in the comics, and I just don't feel like Cheetah worked fine in the film. She just looked kind of silly to me. But Maxwell Lord worked great. And there's a moment near the end of the movie, near the climax of the movie, and I have to bring this up because it was one of my favorite parts of the movie. There's a moment near the climax where the Batman vs Superman theme, A Beautiful Lie, comes into play, and it's extended. Like, they play it for a while, and I was just like, what a great bit of connectivity to the DCEU, and what a perfect moment to use that theme. It was wonderful. That was wonderful. There was also a wonderful scene where they bring, how do I say this without getting spoilery? They bring a bit of popular Wonder Woman lore, especially from the comics, into play here, and it was something that I always thought would be really cheesy if done on screen, and maybe it was a little cheesy, but it worked. It worked, and it was a really cool moment in the film. You see a bit of it in the trailers, but it's a really cool moment in the film. And okay, clearly I have several parts of this movie that could be my favorite part. Another part in this movie that I just loved so much is a scene that reminded me of the first flight in Man of Steel. It's a scene that was very similar to the first flight in Man of Steel. Only I think it was, and as much as I love Man of Steel, and I do love Man of Steel, I think Man of Steel gets a bad rap, I love it, but I feel like this scene, which is definitely very reminiscent of that first flight scene in Man of Steel, but it's done better here. I loved it. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, but I loved it. I thought it was so well executed. Just the joy, the excitement, the sense of accomplishment. I mean, just, it was so well played, and just the thrill of it. It was so well played. So yeah, this was a good movie. I don't like it as much as the first one, but it was good. I mean, I like the first one a lot. The first one is a wonderful comic book movie. So to say it's not as good as the first one, that doesn't necessarily that's not necessarily a bad thing. That was always going to be a hard thing to accomplish. But this was a thrilling movie. It was funny. It had a great message. It did feel a little disjointed at times, and there's a couple things that happened throughout the course of the movie that were that they had to happen so the movie could move forward. And you could kind of tell that, okay, so how did she know that she was going to be here at this time, something like that, right? Or how did he know that this was going to happen right there, stuff like that. It was all very not all, but some of it was very convenient. Some of it was very convenient storytelling, and some of it felt a little disjointed. And there was a couple times where even the tone of the movie kind of skipped around a little bit. There were parts of it that were just filled with cheese, which cheese can be fine. Cheese can be fine, but there are also parts of it that were very serious and straightforward. So tonally, it was a bit of a mixed bag, but it was thrilling. It was funny. It had a lot of heart. Had a great message. The performances were good. Guys, Gal Gadot, she has grown as an actress. There's a scene in this movie where she's crying. Her world has just been devastated. And Gal Gadot sold this scene so effectively. She has grown as an actress, and this was her best performance ever. So, guys, I give Wonder Woman 1984, I'm going to give it a B plus. A B plus. The original one I gave an A. The first Wonder Woman I gave an A. I'm giving this one a B plus. So it's not that big of a drop off. It just wasn't quite as good as the first one. But that's it can still be praised. It can still be praised because I really liked it a lot. So that's my take on Wonder Woman 1984. What did you think of it? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to have a conversation about it. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel. And as always, thank you so much for joining me right here at the LQ Review, where we get to talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that we love to talk about. Until next time, we'll see you later.